Screw it, let's go live now, shall we? Good evening, everyone, or to those who are here. If I'm on the right channel. Oh dear, have I put the right key in? I have! Haha! Yes, John the Bemused. The gender pay gap in the UK debunked next. The image on the screen, though, I want to touch on first, because this amused me. See, this evening I was on the way back from work, and this comment popped up as an alert on my phone. I'm not even watching the rest of your video because you started it off by slurping and smacking your lips really loud into my head. First of all, I didn't smack my lips. I went, ah. There's a bit of a difference. And it was quite, it took about 4 attempts to get that sound. I've never seen your channel, so I don't know if I would like you, but you hurt my ears. Oh, so I'm not even interested. Right. Well, your subscription really would have meant the world to me. I'm not telling you how to do things, just giving you feedback. Now, I did actually reply that it was a one-off. See, that image with me drinking from a cup, I paid for. I asked Christina Prime, my avatar artist, to draw it for me, because I thought it'd be cool. Sometimes I could use it as a snide little response if I ever do response videos where I could just drink and not give a shit. I'm thinking in my next proper video on Sunday, I'm just going to spend a lengthy amount of time slurping, because I think that would be funny. Yes. Anyway, hello Socky, Steam, Laura, Davey, John, yes. And I saw you in the chat Discord with Disc, and I had considered joining you, but I honestly couldn't be bothered. I was too busy, I was explaining something to someone else. They wanted to understand a story, and I gave them the shortened version of Cliff's Notes. I think I used 7 words to explain the story. Yeah, that's how good it was. Probably could have simplified it down to Dumbledore died. That might have just, even though he wasn't in the story, it might have actually just worked. Yeah, I think I might do that, Socky. I might actually do it because I think it's funny, and I might find that person. Let's go back to the scene here. This person, I might go to their page, find their Twitter if I can, and just link it to them. Just link a video of me slurping away. It might take a few attempts to get the audio just right. Anyway, as a number of you noticed from the title, we're going to be addressing the gender pay gap in the United Kingdom because it's come back. Oh, all my life, it actually has. The ONS, the Office of National Statistics, has even released a whole thing on it, a whole study on this. But there are a number of glaring gaps in it, and I want to touch on it. But I also want to... The article that got my attention actually popped up on my phone, and like one of those I think it's called Briefing or News Suite, one of those. So I had to go fishing for it once I sort of print screened a few shots on my phone because I couldn't believe it. And then I had to try and find suitable sources, which is why this wasn't done yesterday, because I was looking for sources, but also because I was playing Killing Floor with Laura and Discanar and a few other people, which I would have tried to stream, but OBS outright refuses to let me stream Killing Floor. Maybe 2, but not 1. Hello Ichabod. Right. You had the sound turned down, genius. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go to this tab. Yes. We're actually going to watch a video that's on the BBC page, because I've got a few sources. I haven't actually seen this video either, so I don't know what I'm expecting here. So yeah, let's watch this. Oh, and if it's not loud enough, I won't know because I haven't got a second screen to bloody well check. Actually, no, hang on. Nope, I can. Give me a second. Sorry about this. Technical issue aside, I actually have a fully charged phone next to me. I could just use that. Where is it? Take your time. Come on. There we go. Right. While I fix this quickly. Not fix. Pull up the bloody channel. Does anyone remember when the wage gap was properly debunked? Like, I remember Sean Head did it, and it was pretty concise, I have to admit. Probably one of the best debunks of it. And in fact, rather irritating, not irritatingly, but I guess this whole thing could actually just be done as a meme with that at the end. Because honestly, it is pretty much that. I'm a tech wizard. I just had to pull up the stream on my tablet so I could see the chat, because I can't see the chat with one screen on my laptop because I'll be watching this poxy video here. I'll take your wrench away, woman. Right, yes, video. Yeah, if it's not loud enough, let me know. This is so incredibly gay. I feel like this is we already know where this is going. Average earnings. That means nothing. And this doesn't, and we'll get to it, I'm sure we'll get into it later. It doesn't take into account differences in part-time and full-time pay. Because people who do part-time hours are typically paid less hourly than full-time workers. Or temp workers, of course.
I think the problem is actually that I don't feel outraged. I'm expecting it. It's great to have this torchlight shone on it, but it's not news to most people.
A lot of these industries...
I'm going to stop them for a second. You know how people die already, indeed. You know how some people say the common average person is quite simple, easily misled? That's why people think scaremongery works during elections, and it never does. This kind of nonsense kind of features a lot when people peddle false statistics or try and fob it off to suit their needs in a way that they believe will mean that person will vote for them to support their narrative and idea or agenda, when it won't work, because most people who have the free time, which isn't the typical person who goes to work, goes home, you know, lives a normal life, they don't have time for this. But anyone else will look at it and be like, yeah, no, this is rubbish. I love how it's not even a real video. Yeah, I know.
These are very, very male dominated. So do women really have a say? And if we do say those things, are there like huge risks attached to it?
We knew they were...
If there's gender pay inequality in the workplace, actual gender pay inequality in the workplace, by law, they then have to either pay you what you are due, or if they fire you, they lose a fuckload of money in unfair dismissal cases. Now, I know that sucks that you won't have a job, but at least you'll have a little compensation, I guess. Which is going to get quite expensive with a lot of companies. I believe, ask the random people on the street. That's almost as good as using a Twitter poll for evidence. I think Onision did that once. It was pretty conclusive. I think... oh, fuck it, I lost my point. Nope, lost it. Never mind, carry on.
We're going to be ugly, and I think the problem is that we've not promoted women higher up the ranks where the big gaps arise, and until we do...
How about we look at the reasons why those women are not... there aren't more women in top high-paying jobs. And I remember talking to Laura about this. About personal... not just personal choice, but consequence of life choice. And also the fact that, for example... and this is sexist, but I've even seen Nigel Farage do this, where he's been on, was it maybe Daily Politics, I think, with Andrew Neil and some bimbo next to him, and I believe he explained that more women, they have children, they then have to make choices around being a mother. That's not to say the father couldn't, but they don't. And this obviously has, you know this is the case, that the men will then take the burden on their shoulders typically, because most kids don't grow up with a father around, or around as much, in quite a lot of cases. Depends on race, I guess, and region of country and culture, type of employment, There's quite a lot of things, actually. Let's continue with this shitty little 1 minute 41 video, because we've nearly finished it.
We won't create equality throughout.
It's definitely a start, but it's so much more than just adjusting some pays this year and then going on as normal. There's an attitude change that needs to happen.
Fuck off. Dear God. There was a thing, I think it was at either the beginning of this year or late last year, either Asda or Morrison's. They, and this is something else I also talking to Laura about, where the warehouse staff are paid more than those on the shop floor. If you think in the chat that someone in a warehouse stacking massive pallets onto shelves is doing the same job as someone putting baked bean tins on a shop shelf, rotating the stock and all that, and therefore they should earn the same amount of money, press 1. If you don't think that, press 2. If you think that they're obviously different jobs, different responsibilities, different environments, of course, as well, press, whatever I said earlier. Because honestly, it was Tesco, thank you. But I also think, if I remember correctly, I think the court ruled that they would have to... no, I remember an Asda or Morrison one now. Oh, I've got to have a quick look, hang on. I'm going to very quickly go and look for this, because this bugs me enough. I know Tesco was stung, but I think... no, gender pay report. There are gender pay reports now. Ooh, that's interesting. Morrison's. Ah, here we go. Yep, Morrison's. Tesco as well, but Morrison's. They face a £100 million equal pay compensation claim from shop floor workers. Most of whom are women, paid almost £2 an hour less than largely male distribution centre staff. They are not the same job. If you think they are, right, leave, honestly. Your IQ is just, it's not worth it here. Not that mine is. Maybe I should leave. I'm the idiot that's doing this. I can actually pull this up, hang on. Yeah, see? Unbelievable. Amazing. Oh, let's see. Here we go. I want, actually, no, I'm going to go back to this. Let's finish this. We've got like 30 seconds. And I want you to suffer as much as I'm suffering. So, yeah. You can all suffer with me. Yeah, very true. And I think this is one of... Okay, so we will get to, I'll get to the Morrison's thing in a minute. Let's just finish this.
I'm not sure how transparent it really is. And I think even when companies have to declare whether there is a gap or not, they can...
Privately owned companies shouldn't have to declare shit. As long as they abide the law, then they don't have to do anything. They shouldn't have to do anything. They shouldn't have to put everything on blast. Fuck you, Omegon? Okay. Buy me dinner first, Steam.
Make it look like there isn't when maybe there might be. Perhaps when the conversations start going, then maybe changes can start being implemented if enough people become outraged by what's going on.
The reason the majority of people aren't outraged, even if our current Prime Minister is, and we will get to that soon enough, is because most people don't give a shit. They don't trust their government to actually do anything, and they don't trust the companies they work for. They literally just go there for money and then go home. Honestly, I don't understand. Exactly, it's not a company's job to show... I get it if it's publicly owned, there might be some argument, I guess, but I don't really agree with it at all. I don't care, because we've got law, everything's enshrined in law, and there are very unique positions where people negotiate their salaries. Hello, Discanar. Those people that get to negotiate their salaries, they then... if they're being added to this issue, then it's not exactly, or to the study, then it's going to be imbalanced because of, again, another mitigating factor being some are in some certain occupations negotiating their salaries or have salaries that are rewards based. Like some they hit certain targets or go above it, they get a bonus, or they, for years of service, get a bigger salary. The BBC are ridiculous for this. For Doctor Who. Okay, so I believe David Tennant, when he left, he was earning $1 million a year. Matt Smith, I believe, he started on a much lower salary, but he earned his way up as well, like David Tennant did. Peter Capaldi, I think he earned, when he left, $250,000 a year. That's what he was earning on his final year, I believe. Jodie Whittaker, because of this bollocks with the pay gap, she's getting $250 off the bat. Now, I'm not criticising her as an actress, but I've barely seen her in anything. So how the hell is she worth that? Capaldi, Smith even, actually, he's a perfect example of how you earn your way up. To the point where now he's getting told he should pay a load of his salary to some nonsense charity movement bullcrap. What was it? The extra that he got that Claire Foy didn't get, that gap. I don't know who Claire Foy is, sorry. But everyone knows who Matt Smith is from that really terrible Terminator film and an okay Doctor Who, I guess. He was alright. Old man in a young body, I guess. But it's really astonishing how people are spinning this. In any case, let's continue. Oh, hang on. Yeah, I'd love to see the lawsuits under data protection. This would be interesting. Because the government's trying to enshrine some of this in law to make more companies do this. And I don't mind the idea of transparency, but I think once they start putting their foot in the door for company transparency, they're going to start. They're going to open a box of problems. I think they'll then start to try and muscle in on companies' business, which they shouldn't do. They have no right to. Their job is to us and not to companies.
It's a fact, which is fine, but what's the next move? What are they going to do about it? I think that's the most interesting thing that I'm waiting to find out.
They should do absolutely nothing. Well, that was it. Oh no, fuck off with that. We're not doing any more of that. Right, so just over 10,000 companies did so ahead of the deadline, with more than 1,000 firms reporting on the last day. The median pay gap among all companies that have reported, the commas are missing there, is 9.7%. The median. Okay, so for those that don't, why are people hugging Miss Steam? Have I missed? Oh, hello, Red Robot. How are you, fam? Right. So for those that don't know what a median is where you take all the numbers, right, lowest to the highest, you put them in a row, and then you cross them off at the end until you get to one in the middle. How fucking accurate is that? Oh, honestly, it makes me chuckle. This argument was made. I think the first time I ever addressed the wage gap, probably 2016. Red, you've been around as long as I have, perhaps a little bit longer actually. On YouTube, and I've seen so many people argue the wage gap, and it wasn't until June made that little 15-second clip debunking it. I think even one of the better ones I remember seeing was Milo Yiannopoulos, and I know he's a very polarizing character, but he's pretty much on point. He's good at that. Hug for Laura too. God damn, Reg, you're a slut. Right. I'm not a very good hugger anyway. The median pay gap, right. Of those that have submitted the figures, 78% pay men more than 14% more than women, 14% pay women more, and 8% said they have no gender pay gap based on the median measure, which is so fucking accurate. Let's not forget here, in some occupations, it's going to be male dominated and they'll be at the top, or depending on employment. Say for example, and I'll have to go and find it. Where is it? It might be here. Right, it might be this article. Yes. A Tory councillor calls Theresa May stupid over concerns of the gender pay gap. Now, the reason why it was... I have to scroll down and find it. Here we go. Here we are. Right, yeah. More than 10,000 companies complied, revealing that the 10 worst offenders pay women more than 2/3 less than male counterparts on average. The worst gap was 85.2% at North Wales News Media, a newspaper firm. I know nothing about that company, but we'll get to that later. Second was Millwall Holdings, parent company of the shittest football team on the planet, filled with hooligans, with an 80% gap. Ryanair was 8th was Ryanair with 71.8% gap, which it said was because more men were pilots. Well, that actually brings up an interesting point here. You're lining up all these companies, and you're having all their employees then put on blast. But then you're not separating them based on income or occupation. Occupation. I think because that plays a huge part. You cannot pay a pilot the same as the person who gives people peanuts. Are they air steward? Air stewardess? You cannot pay them the same. They are vastly different jobs. One is massively complicated. You have to work so hard to get from A to B and get it right. And the other is the pilot. Jesse, I really want to get that tentacle blanket, and I'm hoping I can get it soon. I'm hoping, because I think I'll end up falling asleep on the sofa every freaking night with that. It looks awesome. Actually, I've got a picture of it there on ThinkGeek. Yes. So let's go back to this, and I'll address the chat because I'm pretty rubbish at doing this. Bringing socialism to the masses bit by bit. I wouldn't then be too surprised if Jeremy Corbyn supports this, although I'm pretty sure he's far too busy dealing with anti-Semitism within his party, whether people would like to believe it's actually a thing or not. I believe there's a video floating about of him saying, "I like the Jews." It wouldn't surprise me. You're putting more thought into this than people writing the article. Probably because I'm not one of these people. I'm just not interested in the drivel, and I've got ONS here. I've got the Office of National Statistics. We will get to this. I've got all night. Well, okay, I don't. I've got work in the morning, but again, I've got plenty of time. So, oh look, you got the reference here to Ryanair. Yeah, it's not a gender pay gap. Okay. You cannot fob this off. It is so intellectually dishonest. It's disingenuous. It's in poor taste. Okay. You cannot say this is a pay gap when you've included all professions and then tried to say, oh yeah, it's all the same. It's not the same, because there will be some workplaces where women are more dominant by numbers than men. So it is safe to assume then that a lot of those women will be in higher management positions. Therefore, in those particular types of employment or companies, when you do the median, women will make up, there'll be a pay gap in favour of women, which is said here to be 14% of, employment places. It's also right to assume that it's wrong to then have it so that all employees of all different occupations are put on that same benchmark. It's wrong. It actually is wrong because of that. Yeah, I know. But honestly, PMQs wasn't on this week, okay? So you're going to have to endure me suffering, well, all of us suffering. Okay, so, however, gender equality campaigning charity The Fawcett says it represents an opportunity for employees to talk about pay and find out what their colleagues earn, which I don't think is I don't think it's any of their damn business. If you think, I mean, if you're doing the exact same job, and you're in a let's go with this. If you are minimum wage earning or living wage earning, that bracket, white collar, blue collar worker, okay? So you don't negotiate your salary at all, okay? And you think, and you're not being paid the same as someone else for doing the same job, that is. You've got a leg to stand on. Of course you have. You've got legal precedent from 1970 on your side. However, this doesn't and is not the case with those that occupy negotiated salary positions. But they are being added to this, and they have been. If you think that people's salaries across all fields should be put on blast so everyone can see what everyone earns, and I don't just mean the wage, I mean their names as well, because they're going to want to name and shame them. If you want transparency, you're going to want to put their names with the salary as well. Do you think that should be happening? Press 1. If you think, like I do, and it should be a case of it shouldn't happen at all, press 2. Because I think it's important. That one sums things up. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Psychomegas. Yeah, actually, Prospero, you actually make a good point. I was... twos, that's what I'm talking about. Fuck you, Discanar. I'm timing you out, cunt. I am timing you out. If someone doesn't time him out first, someone time him out. Time that faggot out. Is that Discanar? Was that the right one? Was that Dibula? Discanar, gotcha. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. It took me a while to find him. Yeah, so I'll get to you, Dibula and Davey, later. Miss Steam, or Laura or Red, time her out, please. Double penetrate that. As far as I'm concerned, and you'll, the majority of you agree with me on this one. Okay, so actually, what I was going to talk about. In my previous full-time job, I was a manager. I was in charge of the entire dispatch department of a company, and it was a very busy job, and it was quite a hard job by a lad. I had to prepare pallets and freaking use a forklift. I had let's see, how many staff did I have under me? About 60. So I was a busy guy. But I didn't know what anyone made until when I left. I found out that one of the ladies who was just she just put phones through the system. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Good man. Good man. I found out one of the ladies who just did one of the basic jobs. I believe it was just a assistant job, not too technical. Scanned phones through, made sure they went through to the end of the department so I could process them, and send them back to the shops, Phones for You or Orange. And I found out she was earning more than me. I was earning minimum wage, actually, and she was the only one earning more than me. Well, not minimum wage, arguably. Minimum wage by today's standards, let's call it that. And I was quite surprised, but I didn't take offence to it because I'd been with the company for 2 years. And she'd been with the company for 10 years. That was my reasoning. And I accepted that because she'd earned it. She'd earned that extra money. Am I wrong to think that if you were there with the company for a long time, you deserve to be rewarded for that? Or do you believe, or like a lot of people believe, even Corbyn would believe this, by the way, that if you work for a company, you earn that rate and that's it? Honestly. I think that's not an incentive for someone to want to do better. If you want to succeed with a company, you want to get the most out of them and give your best in return. How does the company get the best out of you? By making sure you're incentivized to do better, not under threat of losing job, which is a growing concern with those that have agency contracts, 0-hour contracts, because they'll just say, oh, I can find someone else better. But then again, this started decades ago when people were using it as an excuse to just hire Polish people. Not that I'm against hiring Polish people, since my entire department was Polish. I think one of the phrases that got floated around a lot was "Chepchila kulwa masz," which apparently meant "work faster, bitch." I rarely spoke much Polish. I spoke enough to get by, though. 2 women on our staff both make more than me because they've been there longer. Yeah, Dibs, you get it. If you were in my field as an usher, you were all started equally. However, gender did not matter on pay raises. It was what you did or your actions to earn it. Meritocracy. right? It's not about... This does sound very Jeremy Corbyn-y socialisty. Like, he wants it to be so that everyone, everywhere, gets the same. That's what he wants. I think, as long as the opportunity is there, you're entitled to the same, but you have to earn it. I don't think you should just get it. There are some exceptions, of course. For example, we have a wonderful healthcare system. I mean, if you're lucky, you can book an appointment with a doctor and see them in, like, 6 weeks. How good is that when you're having a massive panic attack? Who doesn't want to see a doctor 6 weeks after it? I'm not drawing on personal experience here. I've seen it, though. Although, I did manage to get an appointment with a doctor because I felt this unbelievable pain in my thigh. Got an ultrasound for that. That was fun. Who doesn't like having their leg lubed up by someone else then pushing an ultrasound thing to check if your leg's pregnant? Okay. So, you've got Sam Smethers here saying the gender pay gap reporting was a game changer in terms of workplace culture and practices. No, it isn't. That is misleading. All it does is tell us that there is a difference in what people earn. It doesn't show us by specific occupation, it shows us by company. And that's it. We know this because you put the bloody survey, you put the bloody numbers right here. That's what you've done. Oh look, all sectors have a pay gap that favours men. So median pay gap, can we just all agree here? This is the single most irrelevant thing you could ever come across. Honestly, there is nothing more irrelevant than a median pay gap. Dear me. Construction. Okay. Right. Oh, wait. Hang on. Who just did that? You ass. You're in big trouble. I assume that's you on Twitter, Steam. I see that. Hello, Stargazer. You ass. Do it again, Red. Do it again. Okay, so let's go through these employments, shall we? Construction. Can anyone tell me what field of employment is dominated by men, perhaps? Maybe? Yeah. I know this for a fact from personal experience, in fact, because I have worked on construction sites. There are very few girls on those sites. I think I've met only about 4 in my entire life, and one of them I went to college with. I did a GNVQ in construction when I was 16, from the age of 15 to 17 in fact, and I was going to be a carpenter, and I was one of the last people in that class, with one other person, and it was a girl. She became a construction site manager. In fact, she's doing very well for herself. But, whereas I wanted to do the manual stuff, she didn't. Not because she couldn't, but because she'd rather be in charge of it. Although, now I think about it, actually, no, she couldn't do it either. She had the skills, but honestly, you put a pallet of bricks near her, she's more likely to actually poop herself lifting it. It's quite funny. If anything, they are architects or design. Exactly. Yeah, there's more finesse about it. The actual physical part is typically male dominated. There was a YouTuber. What was her name? It was something feminism. She was an anti-feminist, and she worked. And I know Red Note might know who this is. Long black hair. She worked in construction. But she was one of very few that did something feminism, I think. And yes, Bossy. Bossy's so bad, right? I know Marking Bad will know who this is, but he's not here. And she was really good at explaining this, because she explained how this was absolute nonsense. I wish I remember her channel name, because I know she was doing really well. She was growing and doing well, but then she just deleted everything. End Feminism? Was that the name? Oh, damn. I wish I could remember now, because I think it might be called End. Her channel was called End Feminism, I think. Reboot mic? Is my mic playing up? Is my microphone playing up, chat? Can you press like 1 if it is? Oh, it is. Oh, okay, hang on. Let's have a look. That might be it. Oh, it is. Wow. Nice. That's a lot of ones. Okay. Right. Let's have a quick look. Put this over there. How about we do this? Hello, Vipersword. I do apologise. I didn't realise... Oh, cured. Okay, so yeah, my tablet was right by the microphone. That might have been what was interfering with it. I do apologise. I only needed it open for the YouTube chat, but I will put it on the bed with the cat, who I fully expect to make a cameo very soon. So let's go through these. Finance and insurance. Again, another field that is still a somewhat dominated male-dominated environment. So instead of addressing this supposed disparity, and forget here for a second, this again does not account for different occupations. Why don't you look at getting more girls interested in that? Education. Oh, actually no. This one's contentious. This one's a bit contentious because I know that the number of teachers is shifting. If they're public schools, then they're owned and they are paid a basic rate. They are not paid and they're not incentivized. So this one is a bit of a contentious one. I need more information on this. Mining. Right, besides the canaries, how many fucking women have you actually seen go in a mine? Please tell me. Someone in the chat. Have you ever... Why is Red laughing? What's Red done? Oh, let me give me a second. Let's find out what Red's done. What have you done? You're laughing, but I don't see what you've done. Ah, I don't know. In any case, mining. If anyone knows a miner that is... oh, bloody hell, Inception here. Oh, yeah, that's why. There we go. If anyone has, please let me know, because honestly, I have never seen a female miner. Then again, how could you tell? They're all wearing blackface. They all look the same once they've come out of the coal mine. It's going to be so dumb. Oh dear, don't you start that. I've made you paranoid. Okay, communication. This one actually, to me, again, I think is somewhat contentious because I want to know which companies, first of all, were that reported in the communication, what's considered communication as well. I don't actually know enough about it. Electricity and gas. Yes, another male-dominated environment. Go figure. Professional and scientific. STEM. Right. Well, imagine my shock. Another one of those glorious fields that's dominated by men, and men find more interesting and challenging, so they get into it. Manufacturing. A physically demanding job. Oh, hang on. It's going down now. Real estate. I actually know fuck all about real estate. Service. Is this prostitution? Because I don't know which one they're referring to. But notice how it gets lower and lower down. Notice here, though, that a lot of these occupations are female dominated. Or becoming more female dominated by choice. This does not, apparently, it doesn't really take into account, obviously another glaring gap in this. It does not take into account those that are self-employed. I myself am one of those people. Company of one. There's no gender inequality. Oh, okay, there is, because there's no female employees. But honestly, I just don't give a shit. I'm not hiring when I have sandwich wenches. It's all rather amusing, really. This is somehow used as some kind of source to end all sources. As if somehow you're going to get a quality understanding of different types of employment based on this. This, of course, not showing you whether or not it is... And by the way, this is hourly pay gap. An hourly pay gap. Are you fucking kidding me? Go figure, construction guys earn more than household employers. Or retail. I'm sorry, but this can't be. This is sensationalized at best. Oh look, my field has a really low pay gap. Yeah, well, we earn fuck all compared to the guys at the top, who everyone probably thinks is finance, but apparently it's construction. What's going on here? There is no statistic a feminist cannot misrepresent. Quite true. Which is all the more embarrassing with this. That's why I find it so fascinating and hilarious when Theresa May is, when she's the fucking idiot, wasting money on an ONS, an Office of National Statistics survey to find this nonsense. She's just as guilty though with her own department, which is where this, although it's not a great source, The Independent, but the fact that even they're reporting this, pointing this out is quite hilarious. Pointing out that even though the Equal Pay Act passed in 1970, people who are assumed to be pregnant or might get pregnant get paid less than that of those who will not, which are obviously men. Well, not assuming their gender entirely, of course. It stands at 9.1%, derived from this median of 9.9%. Right. It's not a pay gap. It's an earnings gap, and it's a median derived from blankly just lining all the occupations up and crossing them off until you got to the middle. Oh dear. Theresa May, you're an embarrassment. Now there is here we go. There was something here. Okay, here we go. This one here. I pulled this up earlier. A comment. While not wishing to deny a gender pay gap earnings, it should be noticed that gender gap reporting is on gross income per hour before the effect of tax and benefits. So, for instance, men pay about twice as much income tax as women, whereas because some women earn less, some women will gain through the benefits system. The single parent bracket remark just before answers that. For instance, based on an online calculator, a single parent working 20 hours a week at £10 an hour with one child under 16 will have their take-home pay almost double, from £8,000 to £16,000. The effect of using gross pay instead of income net of tax and benefits therefore seriously overstates the headline gender pay gap figure. I love this comment. Obviously, it's bollocks at the start, but actually it brings up another mitigating factor that is totally and utterly overlooked by the rubbish ONS study. It does not address the benefit system. And for those who don't know, and I'm going to talk about this for a minute or two, let's close that. Our benefit system is quite nice. It's cushy. To the point where single parents, or parents, some parents even during the time of Labour, and I'm not going to rail on Labour for what they did too much, because I don't really care now. But they made it so that at one point, it was almost unlimited benefits. There was no cap on how much welfare they could receive, and it was almost incentivized that they didn't have to work, or they could just have a child and get the state to give them a home and fully fund everything. That was the mentality we had, and might still have in this country, because we have a benefits cap. But it's a lot more complicated to get benefits. I have 3 sisters that have children. One's disabled now, and she gets benefits because of her being somewhat disabled and her kid. The other 2, they have issues with universal credit, I believe it's called. Universal credit? Because based on income, household earnings, it sort of determines how much they can earn. But, unlike the disabled sister, those 2 work in care. And and I think most can agree here. Care is an overworked, underpaid environment. It is not an easy one to do well in or succeed or get anywhere, and it is high stress as well. Even if you're one of the coolest people, very calm, you will eventually succumb to constant nappy changes of demented old people. I think 1 would be enough for me. and then I'd go on a mass genocide spree. Fact is, these mitigating factors about I'm an amazing uncle, okay? The fact that benefits aren't taken into account shows another massive gap, because you can moan and go on about how people are not paid the same for doing this, but actually that's not what you're saying in this. For doing the same job, or fob it off as or imply it, which will lead to outrage, moral outrage, which is born out of misinformation. Caring for a certain type of person, and that's very rare these days. Quite true. That's why 2 of my sisters are very highly qualified. In fact, I think one of them, based on her NVQ qualifications, is as highly qualified in her profession as I am in my degree. Like, her NVQ level is as high as my degree, which I think is impressive, but obviously somewhat irrelevant, because there isn't money to be made in care, so it has to be done out of profession, out of we have to be done with a certain level of professionalism all the time, because you don't get to earn a lot of money, male or female. I don't know if people like my voice or reading it, or reading with it. I'm sure it's well, I get told ASMR a lot. But anyway, and there was a point. Where was my point? It's somewhere in my head. Where is it? No, lost it. Okay. Never mind, let's carry on. Oh, yes, right, yes. So we're going to have to go back to the those occupation nonsense, because it does not separate by types of employment, which would include part-time, full-time, and of course 0 hour, because even though I think they fall under part-time, that does depend on the company as well. But that doesn't mean they're paying men and women differently. It means 0 hour contracts are worth less. And of course agency workers, who I would have a high rate, but themselves wouldn't earn much because the agency would get the rest of it. I know this because the company I worked for last got paid £15 an hour for my services. I got minimum wage for that. I got ripped off. Yeah. If you think that's bad, you should see the reference they gave me. All it did was confirm when I worked for them, the dates. It literally had just the dates on it and said, "We cannot disclose the nature of the employment, but he worked for us then." Wow. Oh, that made me cry. What was I going to do now? Oh, yes. Right, so now would be a good time to have a little look. Where is it? Oh, there was 2 things actually. There was the employment and earnings in the finance sector agenda analysis. I don't know if we have the time to go through that. That is quite a lot. Perhaps let me just find the employment trends. Right, yes, page 8. Give me a second. I've just got to scroll down to it and then I can pull it up. Where's a lot of fucking pages? 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that page 8? Occupational concentration. Okay, so the high concentration of women in administrative and secretarial roles and low representation in management, including senior management, stood out. There was also, albeit limited, evidence that men may be more likely to progress than women. Shocking. The younger age of men than women in administrative and secretarial and in sales and customer service occupations, and that women are more likely to be promoted to supervisory posts and men to managerial posts. These patterns might be explained by the gender roles followed in society generally, with men not entering administrative and secretarial jobs rather than women not entering managerial and other jobs. Moreover, women are were less qualified than men. Therefore, the lack of women in management may not indicate inequality in the finance sector, but be an inevitable consequence of the high proportion of administrative jobs in the sector. Nevertheless, both recruitment and promotion needs investigation. Of course it does. Because we need to understand gender dynamics in the office, which apparently hasn't changed that much from the time of Mad Men, which is like totes 100% accurate. Honestly, what could be more accurate than Mad Men? I'll link this in the chat for those that are interested, and I will post it there. I will put it in the description once I'm done, because next I want to touch on where is it? Here it is. Understanding the gender pay gap in the UK. I should probably screen share this because honestly, yeah, understanding the gender pay gap in the UK. This is the Office of National Statistics, for National Statistics, sorry. And I can't scroll. Why am I going here? What's going on here? Oh, don't be a faggot. There we go. Main points. Oh, I should probably pull this over here so I can read you guys. The gender pay gap for full-time workers is entirely in favour of men for all occupations. Nice. However, occupational crowding has an effect, since those occupations with the smallest gender pay gap have almost equal employment shares between men and women. That almost sounds like they're trying to promote equal outcome. Like the whole everything has to be equal regardless. You know, like they want 50-50 men, women, although technically 51 women, 49 men, technically. And then you've got to get the races right, mix that correctly. Because we've got to get those percentages, aren't we? Haven't we? You know, people moaned about Hollywood being a white-dominated environment, and then when people pointed out and looked at the statistics, actually, if anything, Hollywood was bang on with the representation. 30%, I believe, being of black origin actors and actresses and stuff in Hollywood movies. Yeah, that was quite interesting. When looking at age groups, the gap for full-time workers remains small at younger ages. However, from age 40 onwards, the gap widens, reaching its peak between 50 to 59. Okay, so let's think of mitigating factors that would make that a problem. Now, this is obviously for full-time workers. This doesn't account for sick days, or whether they are entitled to sick pay, or how much sick pay they get. Let's not forget here for a second, a lot of women do get maternity leave. Men do get some paternity leave, I believe, but not anywhere near as much as maternity leave. I was going to add the fact that people change careers as they get older, depending on priorities, but also, and this is typically why women retire younger, because their body deteriorates a little bit faster than men's do. Even if you're not doing the same job, you're doing a lighter job or workload, your body health starts to deteriorate a bit quicker than men's. I don't know why that is, actually. There's probably a genetic reason for it, even though you outlive men. I think it's because you're a protected class, though. Yeah, that must be it. No offence, but I do think that there are some factors at play here that don't really add up. If you want to earn the same as someone doing the same job, in a physically demanding job especially, it's going to do a number on you quicker than it would if you were in a far less demanding job. And I mean that physically and mentally. That's not to say your body won't deteriorate, of course, because if you're not using it to its potential, then it will anyway, because you're not using the right parts frequently enough. And yes, that's actually another point, Tiger Lady, you're quite right. Having kids changes that. The majority of women have children, and that makes it the war zone that becomes your body after that. Yes. I remember being scarred for life by watching my very first natural birth. I was 15, and honestly, if anything could have put me off wanting to knock someone up, that was it. It wasn't the part where the baby was born that got me, although getting to watch that with a bird's eye view in her living room, yeah, that was weird. It was the odd burp sound followed by the... Yeah, no, we'll stop there. Exactly. Oh, fucking hell, that was loud. Holy fuck balls. Sorry about that. Oh, Socky, well, Michael Jackson would approve of your choice of blanket. Thank you, Socky. That's very kind of you. I might need to turn that down in the future because that was quite loud. Maybe the person with that earlier comment about loud noises and earphones was quite right. Anyway. Yes, so something I didn't point out quite right, I should have pointed out, was the hormonal differences. And I think people, whenever scientists get brought into discussions about this kind of stuff, this is where while they're willing to argue and be happy to argue that men need to, or more women should need to get involved in STEM, they don't listen to the evidence from STEM. There is an obvious difference in biology here, come on. And it does play a part. Men typically like something that's more competitive. We like it. We like to be challenged. That's not to say a lot of girls don't, but statistically men do more. That's why sports are dominated by guys. That's not to say also there are not a lot of sports dominated by women now, because I watch plenty of sports. And I don't mean I'm a pro when it comes to watching gymnastics at the Olympics. Or I'm a pro at watching, I don't know, women's football, which I actually would say is probably better than men's on the grounds that they don't dive. But at the same time not as competitive as the men because they're just brutal. Wow, sir, blue-footed booby, that is quite the description. Thank you very much for sharing. Yeah, hashtag equality for all, everyone. Because what we all need now is, what we need to do really, is to end the true discrimination that happens to the human body brought about by this constant hell of being genetically different. Which in turn makes us different. And the only way we can truly suppress that is, I don't know, through some Vulcan practice. I honestly don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, say goodbye to sleep too. Luckily I'm only an uncle, so I don't have to suffer. But I have to get up at like 6:30 in the morning for work most times, so I do get up early anyway. But it's no. Holding all other factors constant for 2017, women's pay growth in respective age was lower than men's pay growth and also stopped growing at a younger age. What changed though? Silly question, I know. We all know the answer. Regarding job tenure, men who have worked for over 20 years in the same organisation earn 20.8% more compared with those men who worked for no longer than 1 year. For women, pay is 17.5%. If you've worked for a company for that long, okay, let's say you've kept the same job occupation for all that time, but you're the bottom rung of the ladder, say, then this is obvious. Then this becomes discrimination. This does not point out or tell us whether those same people are in the same occupation or not. Or no, let's just leave it with that. Honestly, at this point, this is actually becoming silly. In terms of occupation, men working in the chief executives and senior officials' occupation earned almost 4 times more than men in elementary occupations. Really? Wow, I am so surprised. In the case of women, this is almost 3.5% more. But this again... Okay. So, this is for occupations, not the same companies. Am I the only person that noticed that? Please tell me someone else saw this. The blinder... Oh, I don't know what that is. Oh, I know what it is, yep. Okay. Results show that 36.1% of the difference in men's and women's log hourly pay could be explained by differences in characteristics between men and women included in the model. Of those, occupation has the largest effect since it explains 23% of the differences between men and women's hourly log pay. That's incredibly exciting. Let's actually go down a bit. To summarize okay, so what this summarizes: overview of the office. The head. Oh yeah, this nonsense. I have I believe I've linked this in the description. I might have. If I haven't, I will. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top because there might be a breakdown of the gender pay gap. Here we go. Okay. Section 5. Alright, okay, where's Section 5? Is Section 5... I just want to quickly find it. Nah, fuck it, it's too far away now. Oh, no, it'll be the tables... Yeah, okay. It'll be these tables here, actually, which we've all just learnt about. Okay. So, Section 5 showed that there are a number of factors that influence the pay of men and women differently, which is all of this nonsense here. All these tables Estimated difference in men's mean hourly pay excluding overtime. Okay, so there, excluding overtime is a real problem because, and I know, sorry, but this is going to sound sexist, but I don't know many guys that have ever said no to overtime. I say yes all the time. My view on it is quite simple. If you're going to pay me, I will do the work. I will do it because I want the money. Honestly. What's going on here? There was not... Oh dear, what's going on here? That's wealthy idiot to you, Count Dibula. Who's wealthy? Nice. Congratulations on being wealthy. Let's see what this one is. If I was clever, I would have inserted a little clip of Monday Matt talking about throwing money his way. Oh, that was cringe. The estimated difference in women's mean hourly pay, excluding overtime. Fucking mean. Excluding overtime. Okay, so this, I don't think, no offense intended to the ladies here, but I don't believe it would actually be that much different. No offense intended to a lot of you who would do overtime. The impact of occupation. Now, this is what carries on with nonsense here. But let's get down to, where is it? Here it is. The decomposition estimates decomposition estimates the explained element as the difference in pay caused by the different average levels of the characteristics held by men and women. This process assumes that men and women have exactly the same returns to those characteristics and that the men's returns to characteristics are the equitable benchmark. That sounds fair. For example, it assumes that women have the same returns to age as men and calculates whether women should earn more or less than men depending on whether they are on average older or younger. Do I have to... I don't suppose I have to break that down, do I? Because it all seems fairly... I don't know. Almost like a child wrote it. Close person. Oh dear, I'm not even paying attention to that now. Your conversation is... It's I don't know why. The components in figure 13... Right, hang on. Let's go find it. Figure 12. I'm missing something now. Oh, figure 13's here. Right, so we'll get to this in a sec. Reflect each characteristic's contribution to explaining the difference in log hourly earnings between men and women. A positive value reflects that men have favourable characteristics and therefore even if women had the same returns to those of characteristics as men and with all other factors held constant, there would still be a positive pay gap. The opposite is true for a negative value whereby women on average possess higher levels of a given characteristic than men, where that characteristic has a positive influence on pay. I love it. Explained pay gap. Isn't that basically just the construction one? Let me just go and get it. Construction. It might be. It's close. It's close. Age. Oh, here we go. Okay, so let's have a look. Business side. Size is relevant. Age, not really relevant. Tenure, not really relevant. Full time, doesn't again point out a different occupation, but then again, that actually would, if that was real, that would actually be the concern. Occupation. Yeah, I'm not convinced this is for one occupation though. As a general rule of thumb, I think this is an all occupations put together thing. Region of work. Well, actually, okay, so this one can be excluded. No offense intended here, but this one could be on the grounds that living costs, living standards, and work availability of work, factors like that would affect that greatly. Sector, shocking. It's actually not as high as I expected. Right. Excuse me a second. Oh damn, we've actually gone over. Okay. Conclusion and next steps. Fucking loud. My apologies. Thank you, Tiger Lily. That's very kind of you. And yes, I will get that blanket. Conclusions and next steps. I'm going to finish on this because I'm getting tired. Using the headline measure of gender pay gap. Honestly, I was going to do a video on this, but if I did a video on this, it would just be me scrolling through this and all you hear in the background is me slurping on my drink. To end on I have to practice that, of course, to get the right sound, but I will get there. Shows the gender pay gap for full-time workers is entirely in favour of men for all occupations, blah blah blah, basically from the beginning. However, occupational crowding has an effect, blah blah blah. From 40 onwards, we'll go down to this bit here. The gap widens, reaching its peak. That's what we've all read so far. When we modelled the factors that influence pay, the results showed that both men's and women's pay grow for most of their lives. Overall, women's pay grows less than the men's and also stops growing earlier than men's pay. Life factors, life choices pretty much change this entirely. And this does not mean women earn less over their lifetime, employment-wise potentially, but that does not mean the same women will not earn more in their life through things like welfare. This applies to both the private and public sectors, however the returns to pay are slightly lower in the latter. Finally, according to we've read this. Okay, so in conclusion, several factors affect men's and women's pay and thus the gender pay gap. Earnings gap. You disingenuous shits. My apology. Yes. Shoe wage MP4. Hang on, fuck it. I'm gonna go and get it. Let's go and get it. Let's go and get it. It's just you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna end the stream with just this.
The wage gap is simply the average earnings of men and women working full-time. It does not count for different job positions, hours worked, or different jobs. It has nothing to do with the same job. It has nothing to do with discrimination.
I can't think of a better way to end it, even though it wasn't very well positioned on that tablet. I do apologise. But honestly, I don't think there's anything else I can add to this. Quite frankly, it's an absolute joke. I'm gonna add a whole load more. Boxy does it again. Yes, I'm going to add a number of more. Oh dear God, do you even English, bro? I'm going to add some more sources to the description after this, because there were some I hadn't included that I had brought up during this rather messy stream. Hopefully, PMQs will be on Wednesday, so on Thursday I will do a response as normal at 9:30, like I normally do. I don't know why it was on this week. Actually sucks. But never mind. Yes, it was good fun. Thank you, Prospero. I will speak to all of you later. Have a lovely evening. Yes, goodbye.